This afternoon's Dharma talk is titled, Death Comes Without Warning. And the second of the four reminders reminds us of that. The world and its inhabitants are impermanent. In particular, the life of beings is like a bubble. Death comes without warning. This body will be a corpse. At that time, the Dharma, or the truth, will be our only help. We should practice it with exertion. I might have misquoted that, but I don't care. I got the basic idea. This is something I contemplated for many years, and it is part of the Kagyu lineage liturgy that begins with prostration practice, 100,000 prostrations, and doing this particular reminder, along with the four immeasurables, so the four limitless ones. What are the four limitless ones? Say it.
May all beings be happy. May
all beings enjoy happiness and the root of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the root of suffering. May they not be separated from great happiness, devoid of suffering. May they dwell in the great equanimity. May they be free from passion and aggression.
It's time. Is it time to eat? So we use these forms to help us remember, to encourage us to continue to practice on this particular path, which is not particularly full of rewards like merit badges. Trungpa Rinpoche back in the 70s gave a seminar that I don't know if there's any transcriptions of that or not, but it was called Buddha Dharma Without Credentials. Buddha awakened, Dharma truth without credentials, without proof. Buddha Dharma without any proof at all. This makes it a very powerful teaching. It is not a mundane teaching. It is not a worldly teaching necessarily. It has mundane aspects to it, but it is mainly a path, spiritual path of transcendence, transcending this world. We have so many ideas about what that would be like, and we keep comparing to see if are we there yet? Are we doing it? We got it? It looks like this. One of the common ones is, are you more peaceful? Well, probably not. Quite often a person can practice for 20 or 30 years and still be just tied up in knots and wonder, what am I doing wrong? Or what is going on? Or what have I misunderstood the teachings? Have I had this? Is this true? Is that true? Death comes without warning. There's your teacher right there. This will come to an end. The very confidence that we have of being here and being embodied is so incredibly strong. I'm here. I feel I'm here. I'm somebody. Nah. You're wrong. This is your extreme ego credential. I'm here. I can do this. I can have coffee, or I can have a beer. I meant to say beard. I can have a beard if I want. Wouldn't it be great to really have a realization, an understanding about your life where you really, really knew what this was about, completely what you wanted to do, what you were supposed to do, what you should be doing, what's actually fundamentally the truth. No more doubts. You know that every day you get up, you know you're doing exactly what you need to do. In spite of any kind of negativity in spite of any emotional bad weather. not easy to do that. Death comes without warning. So the idea here with this teaching of the 4 reminders, this is the second one, is to help us to see that, simply put, whatever's happening right now is not going to last. It may last for a while, but it has to come to an end, or it's not life, something else. Well, that's all I've got to say. Probably that. Question about this at all?
How do we include death as part of our practice?
So this reminder is one of the ways. The first reminder is how's the first one go?
First, contemplate the
Preciousness. Go ahead.
Being free, no failure, difficult and being easy, now just do something.
Okay. Which is meditate. Second, what? Show off. Right, we have a lot of Leos in here. Second, the world and its inhabitants are impermanent. So second, the world and its inhabitants. Nothing. Everything is changing. Even your worst negative feeling that you had 3 days ago, or yesterday, or this afternoon, will not last. It can get extended though if you fight with it. It can get kind of an extension if you feed it with passion, aggression, and ignorance. If you feed it with the 3 poisons, it seems to stay there. Sometimes we have resentment towards someone, and we, instead of just seeing the resentment and then doing nothing with it, we tend to fuel it. We tend to kind of go over that story in our mind about how we were abused or mistreated or something. Not that we weren't, but we tend to make more and more and more of it, keep rehearsing it. So the idea here is to see, to witness, to actually understand yourself when you're sitting on the cushion. This is why this practice is an awareness practice. When you sit down, hold very still, and watch what continues to move. This is with all the senses open. Anything that continues to move, it is exactly what you need to be looking at. It's not about, I don't teach it this way, and I have taught it this way, but I don't anymore. It's not about becoming more peaceful. It's not about calming down necessarily. And it's not about looking for your handkerchief. Pardon me. So it's not about changing who you are into something else more acceptable. You are it. You're actually totally, I'm here to tell you who you are, completely valid. You don't have to be anybody else. Just be genuine, be exactly who you are. And anything that if you can do that, then anything that needs to be modified, adjusted, backed off, moved forward, opened up, shut down, refrigerated, will begin to occur out of what? Out of panoramic awareness, sometimes called vipassana. The awareness that sees very, very clearly what needs to occur. It is your Buddha nature, the self-centeredness, the ego. You don't have to get rid of the ego. It is unreal. That's why I'm saying, just be who you are. If you're actually who you are, you're no longer at war with yourself. You're no longer lecturing yourself in private. Then you will see the self-centeredness for what it actually is. It's unreal. You don't have to get rid of your ego. You don't have to become peaceful. If you actually see what is true, just Longchenpa talked about it in the 14th century, the natural perfection. That things are naturally the way they are. Just stop going to war. And in order to do that, we're not talking about the big war. We're talking about the little tiny mini skirmishes that are about 1/8 of an inch long that happen. Ching, 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 happen on the cushion. They happen in the kitchen. They happen in the garden, and they happen walking down the street. They happen looking just a little thing like looking up at someone getting out of a car. Immediately adding, subtracting, dividing, math. Passion, aggression, and ignorance. It's operating all the time. All you have to do is see it. You don't have to stop being passionate, grasping. You don't have to stop being aggressive, destroying. You don't have to stop hiding out or distracting yourself. You don't have to stop doing any of that. Just have to see that you're doing, just have to bring the awareness there. Example I've used probably dozens, if not hundreds of times, is just like a blue sky. The blue sky is not at war with the clouds. The blue sky is just the blue sky. Everything is welcome. Clouds, birds, even jet trails. Everything is welcome. But if we're identified with a particular kind of cloud or kind of whatever's arising, and we get identified either to reject it, to accept it, accepting something can be just as difficult from the point of view of self-deception as rejecting something or shutting down on something. One of the ways that this shows up is justification. Having a feeling, here's your feeling coming up. And rather than just see the feeling, see the texture of the feeling, just see the texture of it. If you're seeing the texture of it, you have no idea what it even is. You might not even know if it's positive, negative, or neutral. You just know that it's something that is arising out of beginningless time into this apparent present moment. If you do anything with it, accept it, explain it, justify it, you're covering it up. You're actually covering up. You're actually covering up. You're actually missing your life. You're missing the very life that you're supposed to be here to live, to actually live out. Sound like I'm scolding everyone? Sorry. I'll try to be nicer. It'll be okay. You don't have to do anything. Yes, Andrea.
Yes, the idea of sudden death.
The idea of.
Or not the idea.
Okay.
When I've lost people close to me,
Yes.
something that I took comfort in is knowing that everyone is on the earth for the exact amount of time that they're supposed to be.
Okay.
So that was in past years. In your practice, how do you deal with heartbreak of losing somebody suddenly and everything that comes with that?
You know, it's more openness, more space. Space is sometimes called emptiness in the beginning stages, but eventually it's compassion. And we're all doing this. We're all coming and going. We're all being born and we're dying and being born. It's happening everywhere. So we get attached to others, and it's not about getting rid of the attachment. It's about seeing the way in which you're attached. And there's nothing to correct about having heartbreak over someone that you cared about and miss and love going. There's nothing to do about that other than just feel it deeply. Don't add to it. Don't take it. Don't add. Don't subtract. Don't divide. Don't do anything with it other than feel it. Quite often we want to push it down, or we want to have lots of stories about it. This shouldn't have happened. They shouldn't have. If we'd only done this, then they wouldn't have. This wouldn't have happened. We just spend so much time, elaboration. Don't elaborate. This is elaborate enough as it is. Look in the kidneys and you'll see 1 million glomeruli, right? That's pretty elaborate. Okay, enough said. Now let's just look at what arises in each moment in your mind. From now until tomorrow at noon, literally hundreds of thousands of thoughts and ideas will come and go relative to this, relative to that, relative to this, relative to that. Look at the relativity of things. And look at how there's something arises and you add to it. Something arises and you take away from it. You judge it. Or you distract yourself from it. or you promote it, or you think, well, this is a good, this is a bad, this is a, and what's being said is, I'm not saying you shouldn't be doing that somewhat, but it should come out of, when I say should, I mean it should come out of your awareness about it rather than your position as someone who's trying to protect themselves and hide out or be right, never be wrong, and get stuff. Sheldon.
When we experience a loss, someone passes. And, we want it to stop hurting. From our point of view here, we know that everything changes. But how can that help us whenever that comes up? It always seems to be, I don't want to feel like this.
So there again, sitting on the cushion, training the mind to see what actually is occurring rather than jumping to conclusions about it and making up stuff about what is occurring. Here's what occurs, and this is what we think about it, rather than just what occurs. What occurs, you are not separate from. It's called not to, Advaita, non-duality. The very thing that you're experiencing, you're not. We separate ourselves through our thought patterns that insulate us from it because we think that somehow we're going to feel better if we insulate ourselves. Sometimes that insulation is so extreme that the person doesn't even actually understand they're even having difficult or negative feelings or emotions. And it's starting to show up other ways, sometimes in a person's health. They're so shut down on something. Good question. More? Go to right to the heart of that question. Then I'll help you. You have to see the way in which that arises and we add. That arises and we subtract. That arises and we distract ourselves. We have to actually see that mechanism so that it can, dissolve or lose its energy. The awareness itself is so powerful. If you try to do anything with it, we're right back to self-centeredness. We're right back to somebody who wants something to be different than it is, which is the second noble truth. The first noble truth is life is dissatisfaction. Difficult. We all know that. Anybody disagree with that? And the second noble truth is the cause of that is we want it to be different. We crave something other than whatever is arising. And so the path, to use the rest of the Four Noble Truths. So the third one is a cessation, that this can come to an end. This will stop. What actually stops that's provisional teaching. So what actually stops isn't exactly the ending of suffering. Something does come to an end, but it's more the sufferer rather than the suffering itself. Suffering is everywhere. And the last one is Shila, Samadhi, and Prajna, or discipline, meditation, wisdom. Hold still, look at it, see what it is. That simple. Hold still in your busy life of going this way and going that way. Spend some time, meditate, hold still. And over time, see what it is that is occurring in your mind for yourself. And if you see that, what is occurring, then you will see that you're not separate from that. It's called wisdom. Simply put, wisdom doesn't see anything else. Wisdom just sees wisdom, even though it might look like you. That's right, you have a wisdom name, don't you? You're pretty proud of that, aren't you? I get to pick on him. He can pick it. Yes, sir, William.
So we all know that death is coming.
Yes.
What does that matter in our practice?
Not a lot. Not near as much as we think it does. Just a way of saying, even death that's been said like this, I'm coming here, I'm coming. And so we say, oh, okay, well, I'll make use of my time. I'll try to make sure that I get some practice in of trying to see what this is. I'll actually make a spiritual path part of my life. This whole thing is about a spiritual path for all the billions of people in the world. And it's not my opinion. It's not an opinion. Just like it's not my opinion that this is a room. It's also not my opinion that everywhere I look, I don't see any separation anywhere. It's not an opinion. It's a realization, and that's available to everyone. You have to do it yourself. If you realize it, then you don't need a credential. Questions? Since you?
You've said before that you're already dead.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
It just means that life and death are not separate. It's not like I'm dead, you should bury me. I mean, I'm just saying that if you understand what this is, you know, it's not, nothing is particularly all that surprising. All the polarities don't separate from each other anymore. I'm alive, not dead yet. All the other polarities, like love and hate, those don't separate from each other anymore. And any polarity you can find. Buddhas and sentient beings are no longer separate. You actually live in a no woman's land. No woman's land. No, there isn't any. There isn't any land. There isn't any. There is no reference point. Like I often say, you don't have to believe or disbelieve anything. If you believe anything or disbelieve anything, you're trapped and you're a prisoner of what you think. But if you don't believe anything, you're free. And you're free in the sense that there aren't any boundaries, like it says in the Heart Sutra, without walls of the mind, Muke Ko, my favorite line, Japanese line, Muke Ko, without walls of the mind. That's the way Red Pine translates that. That there's no boundary between anything. This doesn't mean there aren't boundaries, but they're very, very natural boundaries like skin. So, but the boundary doesn't mean that this side of the boundary is good and this side of the boundary is bad. Sheldon.
The 12 links kind of indicate that every moment is born and dies. In what way does that death relate to death comes without warning?
I think death comes without warning is referring to your physical demise, which you will not be here to witness particularly, or you might be. So it's just saying that in this particular situation, you have so much time. And how that relates to just the same way of going to sleep and waking up is there's here, and then we go to sleep and we wake back up. So we're kind of dying and then waking back up. We go into another world, and then so it's obvious. We do it all the time. We do it every day. We're getting a little lesson in spirituality. Here's what it's like to be alive. Now go to sleep. That's what it's like to be dead. It's very similar. So moment by moment, look, can you find the boundary between one moment and the next?
Seems like it.
Does it? Show me one of those.
It feels like that.
Did you believe that?
Not really much.
Really?
So
Any other questions? Kevin?
Is there something to be aware of that's outside of the boundaries of sensation and perception that does not arise within?
I think it's in a sense, I think I follow what you're asking about, and I think it's both. It's both there and not there. It's also not to. You can't find a not to. You can't find anything that isn't not to. Anytime you find any, it's sometimes called discriminating awareness wisdom. It's like there's a discrimination happening, but it sees that it's not to. So there's a separation happening, but it's not to. Just like past and future, alive and not alive. More about that would be good if you have it.
So you're saying yes and no.
Not really. You said that.
You're saying not to,
I'm saying not to.
not separate.
Saying
How-
separated, but not separate. You can see, in order to see the no separation, you have to see that it actually does have separation. You have to really respect the natural separation of things. But I'm always using the image of a hand. I would like to come up with a different one. Maybe I could use my foot. But these fingers are very separate. They're very discrete digits. But you can't they're not so separate you can take one in the other room and have this still be a hand. It would be a lonely hand without its finger, especially this one. So it's simple, but it has that kind of a quality to it. Yes,
There's a practical side to physical death.
yes.
Is there some particular responsibility that we have as practitioners to make arrangements ahead of time?
Probably should do something,
I'm just thinking, we're our community here, and we've all we show up every day.
Yeah.
But that's not certainly guaranteed.
Well, that's something Sokuzan, one of the student of mine who's a monk who lives up in Traverse, she is at a seminar this weekend, I think, about death and dying. So to try to learn more about that, what can be done. And it's kind of confusing because we're in a transition. We've got different cultures all coming together. We've got the culture we were all born into, Christian, Judeo-Christian situation. It has its own kind of dynamic around that, which shows up in a really strange form in funeral homes and so on. Kind of weird. But then we try to understand, well, what's the best way to do this? And, the Japanese have their tradition, the Shinto, the Chinese, the Tibetans, Indians, all have different ways of working with this, from cremation to burial to ceremonies of different kinds. So it's not so much about right and wrong. It's just you could even look at it and say, how do you want to do this? That's what we're doing here. It's kind of unusual situation. It's very much like a hybrid. I have a Tibetan teacher and a Japanese Zen master. And then I have my own culture that I'm born in here, born in this town. Then I have this whole situation. And then we have this practice situation, which we are doing together, and it very much is a mutual, it's something I thought of. It happened in the interaction, the sparks between people's awareness, consciousness, and their desire to become realized. And so this is arising this way. So we're kind of making stuff up in a way. Shoka.
One of the four reminders says, just like a feast before the executioner leads you to your death, I will observe attachment and desire and attain enlightenment through exertion.
That's the fourth one. Yeah.
What is meant by just like a feast?
It's just a contrast. It goes to fourth, the home's friends, wealth, and comforts of samsara, the constant torment of the three sufferings, just like a feast before the executioner leads you to your death with cut desire and attachment, attain enlightenment through exertion. And so, question.
What is he pointing to when he talks about a feast?
So the feast is just showing the contrast that most of us we're here, we're eating, we're having our time, we're going bowling. I don't know how many of you bowl, but probably not many. We're having a good, we're partying, we're enjoying, we're going on picnics. Nothing wrong with any of that. We're enjoying our family. We're all having humor, laughing about things. We've just finished a meal. We're about to have a more humorless meal, which is called oryoki. Actually, oryoki here is quite a bit of fun because we don't require that you can't say anything or laugh. You have to be real sober. So it's like the contrast. It's like a feast before the executioner. Like death comes without warning. That's it's like everything is fine 1 minute, and the next minute you find out you have terminal illness. You're going to be gone in 2 weeks. That doesn't always happen, but it could. Why does that make you smile? I'm not smiling. Because you're only 26 and I'm 108.
No.
What? Anything else on that?
I guess something about it doesn't make sense to me.
So it's just a big, just like a feast before quite often they give an inmate in a prison. In the past, I don't know if they're still doing that, but they allow them to have their choice of any food they want before they take them to be executed. So just like a feast, it's a big contrast. Here, you can have whatever you want. You can. It's almost like some kind of perverted thing to do to someone. To even include that kind of thing. You can have. We're going to kill you. And it kind of legitimize the whole thing. We're really bad, so we're going to kill you. We're going to eliminate your life, as if anybody has the right to eliminate anyone's life or anything. It's anytime you take someone's life, it's murder. Don't pay any attention to that thumping out there. It's a friend of mine. When I say it's murder, I'm saying, well, you could probably use another word, but it's interfering with someone else's sovereignty. Don't do it. You can't do it. You shouldn't do it. And even though someone is a horrible person, like we run into every now and then, if we can avoid it, we shouldn't do that. But then on the other hand, if the only way we can handle that, then maybe we'd have to end their life. But it would be coming out of awareness rather than out of open fear. Further questions, please?
Not that
Megan?
I'm in any way condoning killing someone, just
Yeah.
kind of feeding off of what you were saying
Yes.
earlier about like you're already dead. So like if in this moment your belief is that you are as alive and as dead as you'll ever be because it's beyond the physical body, then wouldn't killing someone's physical body also technically not be murder at that point?
That's a good question. It wouldn't, but the thing is you're interfering with the natural progression of that. So, and it's not that your interfering might not be a part of that natural progression, but in that situation there, less is better. So it's not that you might not be so-called dragged into somebody else's karma. That's a possibility. So, it's a good question. More about that?
No.
I see what you're saying, but we have to be very careful that we don't run to justify something just because. You found it? Okay. Further questions? Yes, Lisa.
Logically, I know death happens to everyone.
Yeah.
It's part of this existence. So why do we fight it so much that it hurts, even though we know it's coming for everybody?
We don't want to leave. We want to live forever. So I don't know. I think it would vary with each person, how much we're attached to this particular life, believing that we are this particular person. I think it has to be investigated with awareness rather than, if I could say something really helpful about that would help people, I would. But the thing that I want to say to you all, everyone, is train your mind. Sit down and see for yourself so that question is completely understood, to answer that question. It isn't like you want to, isn't it interesting that people who sometimes we have people who are in so much pain, they want to kill themselves. They want to actually end their life and go into some area they have no idea what's going to happen. That this is so difficult for them. Very interesting area, this whole life and death area that could be looked at for each one of us. I certainly have spent several years in my youth being very suicidal, just not wanting the intensity that I was going through it when I was very, very young, even in high school. But I'm still here, giving people a hard time.
Shane in California has a question.
Yes.
He asks, does realization come without warning? Is it similar to death?
Yes, it is. It is like death, very much like it, because it has been said that it's the death of ego, but yet not really, because the ego isn't real anyway. So what isn't real is not a problem. Realization is, yes.
Oh, excuse me.
No, you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying, that death comes without warning. And, but I just, in my life, like, I just think about death all the time. And I think, like, oh, I'm 55 and I see people, I'm like, you're still, I'm amazed when, like, you're still trying to be, like, you're still doing the same thing, trying to be famous, trying to get money. Why? I don't understand, And then, but with myself, it's like, I'm thinking, since I've been practicing for so long, I'm thinking, you really only have a good 15 years left, if you're lucky, I feel like, I'm always giving myself this death sentence, and I'm like, you really only, you're 55, and you used to say you had 20 years, and now and it's this feeling that that my time is running out.
Yeah.
And I think, and I always, these horrible formulas, like, well, think about where you are now, and now project yourself 15 years from now. You're not going to be ready. It's just this terrible, like, I think about it just all the time, and I'm thinking to myself, really, how can you think about anything else?
Yeah.
I know it's like a little perverse.
No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
It's not perverse. You're Scorpio, right?
Yeah. Okay.
No, to be serious about it, I'm saying that everyone is wired differently. So some people spend a lot of time contemplating that, as you're doing. I contemplate it also. But your time is not running out. There isn't any such thing as time. But there is for someone, in order to talk about this way and to encourage people to train their minds, we have to say death comes without warning. Your time is running out, that kind of thing. But from the point of view of your awareness practice, don't go there. There's just this. You've been practicing this for 35 years, am I correct? Yeah. So wake up right now. Realize it right now. Good job. And there's no to contemplate it or not contemplate it. It doesn't matter. If you contemplate it, fine. If you don't contemplate it, fine. In your situation, all you have to do is just observe whatever is happening moment by moment by moment, and you will see the truth yourself. There's no guarantee, but the way it looks here, that's what you're in the process of doing. We already talked about that earlier. So just, I mean, if you're going to say 15 years, that means I died 5 years ago. I'm 75, and you're thinking that you got to your 70? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
No, you got 75.
Oh, I have another 20 years.
Huh?
I have another 20 years.
Yeah. You got 20
Okay,
years.
well then I can take it easy.
Yeah. I'd go.
Yeah, go to the Bahamas.
Go to the Bahamas. Yeah,
Some
eat
wild.
tacos. Further questions? Kevin?
How does watching what arises, does training the mind
Yes.
to watch what arises lead us to a fundamental awakening of no separation?
Because when you're watching what arises, you think of it as separate from you. The thoughts are separate from you. You're having the thoughts. You're having the ideas. You're having the emotions. You're separating yourself from that. But if you watch it long enough and you insist on seeing what is the truth, don't settle for anything. Don't settle for a second anything. If you insist on it, you have to do it. It has to be done. That's quite often why I send people into retreat, as I was sent into retreat. Completely be by yourself, spend time by yourself, look at the mind, watch what the mind is doing. And what the mind is doing is what? Moving. It's moving, it's moving, it's moving. And when you see that you're not separate from what is moving, and I'm jumping the gun a little bit here, but I don't know of any other way to say that this is stillness. If you think something is different from you, this is delusion. When you see that there's no difference between anything. Everywhere you look, you see the Buddha. Everyone is totally awakened. They just don't realize it. They keep fighting with themselves. And you want to go kick them. That's what I have this stick for. And these mice. These mice are for. Need a flatter butt. See, that's like, if you don't sit a lot, your butt will be round. And don't meditate laying down, unless you're Greg, which Greg has a sore back, so you might have to do that. Okay, enough sit down humor. Are there any other questions? Sheldon?
I think that you just said that seeing how everything continues to move is actually stillness.
If you see it, then there isn't anything moving. What does he mean by that? Obviously moving. You're moving. Voices, sounds, clouds, bugs.
And we've all always seen that.
Yeah. What's being emphasized is do it yourself. You have to do it yourself. It can't be, I could hand it to you, I would. How about a really hard question? Maggie? No. Hard questions. Yes. Hard question.
Oh,
Have your hand in the air.
I did have a question about pride
Yes.
and what pride is. What is pride?
There's talking about the six realms, the God realm, of thinking that we're someone, we've accomplished something, we are somebody. We get puffed up, and we have pride, and we don't want anybody insulting us. So the interesting thing about pride is if no one is challenging it or poking at it or anything, it's invisible. If you have 2 Harley Davidsons, a Mercedes, a Porsche, and 2 wonderful children that get perfect SAT scores, and you have a beautiful mate, and you live in Laguna Beach or whatever, or someplace where there's plenty of rain, you're in the God realm. Not bad. It's just that's just a way of talking about it. That's physical, but also there's a state of mind that is like that. You could call it a state that just is very pleased with itself.
How do we see this subtlety? Because sometimes it's not as obvious.
The way you can see it is by talking to me and talking to her. That's how you can see it. When I say talking, I'm just interacting, and watch what your mind does. Look at the contrast between how you relate to me and how you relate to her. For those of you that don't know, I'm talking about Senju, who Sokuzan is in a relationship. More.
How do you look at it at the moment in a way that's helpful to help you see it more clearly, without judging or condemning yourself, justifying?
Okay, well, you pretty much laid it out. You have to see the way you judge, see the way you're condemning, see the way you're trying to improve. Trying to get rid of pride is just more pride. You can't really get rid of it. You have to see that the one who is proud is unreal, not two. There's no solid self in the skandha. It's form, feeling, perception, concept. There's no solid being anywhere, even though you have a body, feelings, 6 sense fields and their objects that arise. That does not comprise a being, a self. And then this physical form that's here makes it even more difficult, because then we get attached to this. But even this is unreal because it's impermanent. Go ahead.
Does action need to change while you're looking at it?
Possibly. But there wouldn't be a protocol for that, because it would be so deeply interwoven into the causes and conditions that are rising as your karma, your personality, your all of the tone of your voice, right down to the glomeruli in your kidneys. I mean, every little nuance that has come about needs to be looked at, so that there can be, as it is said in the tradition, in the Vijnanavada or the mind-only school, there needs to be a turning around at the basis of, in the Alaya Vijnana, has to be a turning about in the basis of consciousness. Just a way of talking about it. They don't know if there's any turning about or not, but something can happen, something will happen, something has happened. It has been said that what you're looking for, you're looking at. You just don't recognize it. You're looking at your face, as it is said in the Zen tradition, before your parents' birth. All the time, you're always looking at it. You're always looking at yourself. Another way of saying that is not separate. The mirror like wisdom.
How do you cultivate a willingness to lose or to be nobody?
I think it's about sitting on the cushion and seeing the way we keep recreating a self, recreating someone who's, anytime something happens, there's something who's having that happening. And to begin to see that is a concoction is unreal. It's if you see it, it's like looking at a mask. Trunk Rinpoche used the example of you're looking at a mask, you believe it's real, and then something about your awareness, you start to look at it more closely, and you turn it, and you realize it's just a chunk of wood with the holes in it. That it's just unreal. It's just a mask. And then your awareness, your consciousness is liberated. Actually, you see that your consciousness was always liberated. It's just that you got hung up on this damn mask for 1,500 lifetimes.
And you use the practice to create a self.
Yes.
How do we avoid falling into that trap?
Have a good teacher, so the teacher can hit you. Of course, the teacher's not going to necessarily hit you, but have not only a teacher, but have a sangha who will take care of you so that you can practice. That won't make life worse for you. Have a community that doesn't draw you into more confusion by correcting you or making you, unstable. More. Yes.
Several questions.
Yes.
So we have Anna Maria, who's calling in from Columbia.
Columbia, Missouri.
No, Cartagena. It's a 3-part question.
Well, I wouldn't expect anything else from Anna Maria in Cartagena, Colombia, with her daddy, Poppy.
Okay. Question, can death be another way of relating to something?
So, can death?
Let's go with the rest of you on all 3.
Yeah, might as well give me all.
It's relatively short. Can death be another way of relating to something? Is all change / shifting death? And then what dies?
Nothing dies. Answer though, nothing really dies. That's an illusion also. There's just change, unless there's not. There's change as long as there's some kind of separate thing going on, some kind of separation.
Okay.
Did I answer the first one?
It was, can death be another way of relating to something?
Not sure. You know what she's asking?
No, but maybe she'll clarify.
Clarify that, Anna Maria.
So
In Cartagena.
we can go on to Brett McGinnis from Philadelphia, his question,
Brett. Yes.
which is extensive and multi-part.
I can't imagine anything else from you, Brett, but multi-part extensive. Go ahead.
You've mentioned that there are no guarantees that higher awareness will lead to happiness. What then is so great about seeing things as they actually are? Can you explain how it works step by step? That seeing things as they actually are seems to resolve all the problems and frustrations of human existence. Is the deluded life really that bad?
No, go ahead and live it. Continue.
There was a question earlier today from Christopher, whom we met through AFR,
Okay.
and Christopher T. And he had to go to work. So his question is, how or what is the best way to practice walking meditation or other forms due to having a complicated schedule, a work schedule? And he elaborates by saying he's on call from like 5:30 in the morning till 11:30 at night. And so when he's in the middle of sitting, and then he has to go to work.
Just go to work. Sit. Try to find a way to spend some time on the cushion. there's nothing wrong with life breaking into your sitting schedule. If it does, it does. And then try to adjust it so there's the least likely time to be interrupted. But if you're interrupted, you're in that situation, and or change your job. Do that. But I don't know how else to do it. I think any special meditation technique, not a good idea. And walking meditation, even though I study that a great deal, and we do a little bit of it here, I think we do one scheduled walking meditation a month here. I don't promote that, nor do I disagree with it. If you feel like you want to do walking meditation, I just think that sitting on your butt and looking at the wall, and then you decide when you need to get up and walk, not somebody up in front with an arbitrary bell. You need to decide whether you need to do standing meditation, walking meditation, sitting meditation. You're the one who's awakening, not the guy up front with a bell. Of course, somebody's got to get you started, so she gets to have a bell.
Kozan just sent a message,
Yes.
and she said she just got out of class and is learning to do ritual bathing, anointing with oils, and how to shroud a body.
Good. I feel better now. I can go ahead and kick off.
No.
I don't mean to make light of that. It's good to have some way of working with a physical form, and that comes out of different traditions. I'm not sure what tradition that comes out of, but the Tibetan ritual practice can be very complicated because, those of you who've read Tibetan Book of the Dead, if you haven't read it and you want to read the one by Francesca Fremantle and my teacher Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche. That particular one is a little bit better translation than the W.Y. Evans Wentz translation. Yes.
Do the Sokuzan have a ritual practice?
Japanese practices of cremation, and some of that's connected, I think, with the depending on whether one is a monk or whether one is a lay practitioner or whatever. But there's services. Basically, we just do like we do the morning service. We just dedicate that to the person. And then in our situation, we also picking up from another tradition, from the Tibetan tradition, we do the 49 days of the Bardo. And so someone's picture is put on the altar, and then at the end of the 49 days, we do the service and burn the photograph, which is just symbolic letting go. They're already doing whatever they need to do. Yes.
How would we choose?
Don't choose anything.
What would be appropriate when we have?
Don't choose anything.
How are we going to make plans for that kind of stuff if we don't choose?
Ask me about it. That's what you're doing. So I think it would be different for everyone. I mean, especially and if we were all in Japan and we were all had the same background, we're all born into tatami mats, we're all eating tons of rice. I wouldn't be here because I'm diabetic, so I'd be long gone if that's all I eat, rice. But I think it should be, with our situation, is probably fairly individual. I mean, like one thing, if you don't mind me saying a little bit about you personally, your family needs to be considered in your situation, especially your mom, before we just arbitrarily do something. So it should be, she's, as Christian, but we need to really respect that. And not make her life any more difficult than it already is, having you not be in that, in her particular life path. You follow me? Yeah. I'm saying we would just discuss it and see what would work best. I'm happy to talk to you or anyone else about that if you bring it up. So please do. If you wish to. Okay. Any final questions before we close? Okay.